previously I mentioned that the mean is the most common measurement of the center of the data. So you might be thinking, do we always use the mean to measure the center? The answer is no. There's going to be cases where we don't want to use the mean. There's going to be cases where we decide not to use the mean and we utilize the median. So when are those cases? Well, the median is generally a better measurement of the center when there are extreme values, also known as outliers. Why? Because the median is not affected by the precise numerical values of the outliers. So median is not affected by outliers. However, on the other hand, the mean is going to be affected by the values of the outliers. So this is a warning sign. If you have a data set and you know that there's an outlier, you shouldn't be using the mean. The mean is not going to be a good measurement of the center. Let's go ahead and look at a data set to help us understand this idea. In exercise number 1, you found the mean and median of the data set below. When we were computing the mean, we found that the mean was equal to 8.02. We found that the median was equal to 8.2. Now, we're going to consider the same data set, but this time we're going to replace the last value, which was 9.4. We're going to replace that with a stream value, also known as an outlier. And notice, how do I know that this is a stream value? Well, it's far away from the rest of the data values. It is more than 3 times as much as all the other values. Okay? So that is how I know that this is a stream value, this is an outlier. When I look at this, I'm already thinking I need to be careful. I know that the mean is going to be affected by this value. Let's go ahead and compute the mean. We're going to use X bar to denote the mean because we're talking about the mean of a sample. To find X bar, we need to add all the X values and we need to divide by the number of data values. We have 5 total data values. Let's go ahead and add them here on the numerator. Again, if you're going to do this on your calculator, you need to place parentheses around the sum on the numerator, 13.28. Notice what happened here. We went from having a mean equal to 8.02 when our biggest value was 9.4. And after replacing that value, 9.4, with 35.7, which is a stream value, we see that the mean increases to 13.28. That is a big jump. That stream value is pulling the value of the mean up. And now we're thinking, is that going to be a good measurement of the center of the data set? The answer is no. When we look at the mean of a distribution, we should see that most of the data values are around the center of the distribution. Looking at the data set, we would say, no, most of our values are not around 13.28. That's not a good measurement of the center. If we go ahead and compute the median, we can go ahead and do it here on the table. We are working with 5 data values, so this is going to be easy. Notice we can go ahead and cancel values on the left and right. Let's cancel 1. Then let's go ahead and cancel another value from the left, another value from the right. We see that the median is equal to 8.2. The stream value didn't affect the value of the median. If we look at the data set, we would say, yes, the median is a good measurement of the center. Why is it that the mean was affected by the stream values? Well, it's because the sum of all the X values is higher, much higher because of the stream value, right? The stream value gets to contribute much more than the other X values. Okay, that is why the mean here is not going to be a good measurement of the center. We understand that data sets are going to have some spread, right? We cannot expect all the data values to be really close to each other. We do expect some spread, but we should not let one data value dictate X bar. Here we see that the stream value has much more contribution to the mean than the other X values. Now, what's your conclusion here? We would like to use the mean to describe the center of the distribution, but if we know that we have an outlier, we cannot use the mean. We're going to use the median. Now, you might be wondering, what about the mode? Would I use the mode? For most of the data sets that we look at in this class, we're not going to be using the mode. The mode might be used in data sets where you see a value that repeats with a really high frequency compared to all the other values. Again, the frequency has to be much higher than all data values for us to think about using the mode. In this class, we're mainly going to focus on using the mean and the median to describe the center of a data set. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at an example where we have to compute the mean, median, and mode. I'm asking you to compute all averages because I want to show you how you can use technology to find all three of them. And then the last question that you have here is to determine what average is the best measurement of your data set. Here we have salaries in dollars of 20 employees from a company are presented below. In the table below, we have salaries in dollars of 20 employees from a company. We can see that the data values are in order from smallest to largest. So that is nice. We don't have to order them. So let's go ahead and start by computing the mode. What is the mode of this data set? Do you see a value that repeats with the highest frequency, or do you see two values that repeat with the highest frequency? So here I'm only seeing one value that repeats more than once, and that is 108,448. That is the mode. Now, what is the median? The median here is going to be the value in the middle. And I know I said I was going to show you how to do this using technology, but I also want to show you how to compute them by hand. Especially for this example, I want to show you how to compute the median by hand. So again, we're going to use the strategy where we go ahead and cross a value from the left and a value from the right. Value from the left, a value from the right. You can also cross 3 or 4 values from the left. Do the same on the right. 4 values on the right. Okay. Let's do 3 values. Now, we're getting towards the middle. We can already see that there's 2 values at the middle. So you're wondering which value is going to be the median? Is it 74,235 or is it 70,311? The answer to this question is that none of those two are going to be the median. We're going to have to take 47,235 plus 75,311, and we're going to divide by 2. Okay. Again, if you're doing this on your calculator, you need to indicate that you want to add the expression on the numerator before you divide by 2. That means place in parentheses around the sum. You should be getting 74,773. This is the value that is exactly at the middle between 74,235 and 75,311. Your median here is 74,773. Now, what about the mean? Okay, this is not something I'm going to do by hand, because it's going to take me a long time. Even writing it will take me a long time. So let me take a shortcut. I'm just going to go ahead and say we would need to add all the data values. So I'm going to write the first 2, and then I'm going to say plus ... So continue adding the x values. And then I'm just going to say plus the last 2. And then we would divide by the number of values that we have. We can go ahead and count the number of values that we have, or we can look at the sample size. The sample size is 20 employees. So that means I'm going to have 20 data values. So you can go ahead and do this on a calculator. I'm going to write the answer after we use technology to find the answer. Okay, let me show you how to use technology. First, I'm going to show you how to do this on a TI-84 calculator. On your calculator, you're going to click on Stats, which stands for statistics. Go ahead and click on that. Then you're going to click on Edit. Let's go ahead and press Enter. Notice under List 1, I have a set of data values. Let me go ahead and go up where it says L1, and I'm going to press Clear. Then I'm going to press Enter. I want to delete all the data values that I have on that list. Now let's go ahead and enter the data values. Once you're done entering all the data values, go back and check to see if you enter them correctly. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention when I was entering the values, I didn't show you how to enter them. When you enter the values, type in a value and then press Enter. type in another value, then press enter. When you press enter, the calculator is going to move on to the next line. So now that you have all your data values, you're going to go back to stats. And notice now you want to calculate something, right? So let's go ahead and press on the right arrow so that we can see the options under calculate. We're going to click on the first option. Here we're keeping track of one variable and we want the statistics for that variable. That is why it makes sense to press on one variable statistics. Let's press enter. You're going to have to type in the list where you have all your data values. It could be the case that you're using L2, L3, L4, and so on. It doesn't have to be L1. Okay. Now, where do you find the option to enter L1, L2, L3, and so on? Well, notice we see L1 here on top of 1 in blue letters. We see L2 on top of 2 is also in blue letters. We see L3 on top of number 3, L4 on top of 4, and so on. If you want to type in L1, you're going to press second 1, and that is how you can type in L1. Now, once you do that, click enter. Here we don't have a list of frequencies. I'm just going to leave that blank. Click enter, and then click enter to calculate. Okay. And here you have it. You have your X bar. Now you're going to have a list of statistics. There's a lot here that we haven't talked about. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the statistics that we should recognize at this point. We should recognize X bar. X bar is the sample mean. Notice it's giving us 87,425.4 for the mean. So that is the value that we were looking for. Okay. Now, under this list, we also see n equal to 20. You should recognize what n equal to 20 is. Remember, we use lowercase n to denote the sample size. Here, the sample size is 20. Now, let's go down, click the down arrow to see more statistics. I'm just going to mention minimum. You should recognize what a minimum is. Minimum is going to be the smallest value on your data set. 50,470 is the smallest data value. You should also recognize the maximum being 272,500. That is the largest value that we have on our data set. Now, the last thing that you should recognize at this point is MED, which stands for the median. The median is 74,773. That is what we found for the median. Okay, that is the value that we had for the median. I was under the impression that the calculator was going to give you the mode, but it doesn't give us the mode. Okay, that's okay. We can find the mode by hand. I'm going to show you how to find the mean, median, and mode using Google Sheets. Notice here, I have the list of the data values. You can just copy and paste the list of data values from the Microsoft Word version of the activity. Once you copy those values, we can find all three average. We're going to use an empty cell here at the bottom. You're going to need to type equal, and let's go ahead and find the mode. You can type in mode. You're going to see the option of mode. Go ahead and click on that option. If not, you can just go ahead and type in mode and open a parenthesis. Okay, but I'm just going to click mode. Notice we need to open a parenthesis. If we don't open a parenthesis, it's not going to calculate the mode for us. Once you type in equal mode, open parentheses, you're going to highlight all the data values, and then you're going to close the parentheses. If you don't close the parentheses, it's not going to calculate the mode for you. Close the parentheses, and there you have it. This is the mode. I'm going to use a separate cell to indicate that we have the mode here on the right. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and calculate the median, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same so we don't get confused. The median is going to be found by typing equal median. Let's go ahead and click on the median option. Notice it opens the parentheses for us, but if you were typing it, you would have to open it on your own. So we have median. We need to select the data values, and we need to close the parentheses. You need to close it. It's not going to close it for you. Notice this is the median that we found, 70,773. Now, the last average that we're going to find is the median. Let me get closer. I'm very far away. I think that's much better. If you're going to find the median, you're going to type in equal. This time you're not going to type in median. you're going to type in average. Average. It's going to be the second option that you see. Select all data values, close the parentheses, click enter. Okay. And there you have it. This is our mean. Coming back to our notes, we're just going to go ahead and write the value of X bar. The value of X bar is 87,425.4. Here's a question for you. Determine which average is the best measurement of the data set. You should be asking yourself, do I have any outliers? In example number 5, you're being asked if the mean is going to be a good representation of the average salary for a company. Go ahead and consider those two examples on your own.